Welcome in, everybody. Oh, I'm so excited. We're just going to start chatting today with Katie McLaughlin. You are just a fuck yes person, Katie. And this is, and the moment you and I started talking, I was like, I need to learn from Katie. So, everybody, welcome in, Katie. How are you doing today, girl?
I'm doing so good. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, same. Just our brief chat last time, I was like, "Fuck yes, let's go." Same. You're my girly. Like,
I love it, and I love your Instagram, and we'll let
thank
everybody
you.
know. Yeah, I love how beautiful and just how open and the essence of who you are just comes off just so badass. So, okay,
Thank
so
you.
Katie, I tell the world, and I want to learn. Today is just a conversation. I just want to
Yeah.
learn more about what you do because you have so many things that you do and you put them
Yeah.
all together. So, talk to me.
Yeah, for sure. I would say personally, I'm 38 years old. I'm a dog mom. I live in Nashville. I have two businesses. I only allow myself now two LLCs at any given time because I am a manifester and I want to create something new every 5 seconds. And so one of my businesses is Be Good Guide, which was the Instagram we were talking about. And then my other one, I have a business partner, Maria, and we throw an annual summit. And both are centered all around this sort of intersection of intuition and spirituality and all these different tools like astrology, human design, nervous system regulation, breath work, somatics, sound healing, like you name it. I have dabbled in it. I've rabbit holed on it. Or it's on my list to rabbit hole on. And combining those types of things with business strategy, with systems, with funnels, with how do you take these tools that are really amazing for connecting with yourself and who you are and how you operate and can support you being you, but how do you take them and make them practical and integrate that into a business when the world is really like success looks like making, six figures and having $100,000 launches and also having a white picket fence and being an amazing mother and all. I mean, I'm only a mom to a dog, but like I'm seeing all these women out there and we girl bossed a little too hard. It's like the term that some people are using because like, we want more power. We want our voice to be heard. We want to step into our own empowerment embodiment. We started doing all these things. And then it's like, wait, I don't want to keep adding to my plate. Like my version of success maybe isn't climbing the corporate ladder to be a CEO of a tech company or something. Like that's not my version of success. And so I feel like this story is very common with people where they're like, I'm going on one path, then I realize that's not me. That was someone else's design for me. And then you sort of go through this self-discovery around Saturn return around your 30s, where that's like a checkpoint between all the things the rules that you made up for yourself. Well, you didn't even make them up, but like all the conditioning, whether it's like how you were raised, what was going on culturally at the time. It doesn't even have to be any specific trauma or things like that. I know that gets a lot of conversations, but it really is overarching. If you look at right up to that Saturn return, you're operating based on external conditioning, what other people modeled for you and what was mirrored to you as far as like what's successful, where you should be going, what you should be doing. And then there's like this shift into, okay, well, who actually am I? What rules do I want to create for myself? What am I keeping? What am I getting rid of? And it's not like necessarily like a whole scrapping, right? It's not like, let me throw my whole life out and start again. For some people, it's very minor adjustments. And for some people, it is like a tower card moment, like, let's burn it to the ground and start again. Um, and to move towards this embodiment. And my work is all in both my one-on-one coaching and consulting be Good Guide and in the annual conference, it's all about supporting people being more themselves. How do you integrate who you are into your business and make it not feel like this external thing. A lot of people do planning for like their business and they don't take into account their life, right? Like there's this like mental separation. And so I really, as I was dabbling in all of these things, I had so many tower moments because I am someone who loves to burn it to the ground and rebuild it. And so that's how I collect lessons and structures and puzzle pieces. And that's how I know so many things about so many different things. Every time I did one of those moments, I collected that as a puzzle piece of like, this is part of who I am. I have a design background. I'm not a web designer, but I'll occasionally just do a website. I don't identify as a web designer as I did when I was freelancing before I got into corporate America. But that is a piece of my puzzle, right? When there's that like shift from other people's rules to your rules, what was true for me is that I sort of had this idea of like, okay, I have to leave everything behind. And then I sort of circled back to, well, what if I just take all the pieces that I identified with along the way and then sunk into them now? Like, what do I resonate with now? Which was a big shift in even just like identity and looking at things. I mean, there's so much, especially in our career, wrapped around personal identity and like how, and that reads authenticity or not authenticity. It can come across in a lot of different ways, but I think again, it's that like attaching to an external identity, work persona, or this is my work mask versus like this is my me mask. I work with a lot of clients who are like, well, I have this other thing that I'm interested in, but I think I need to create a new Instagram or a new business. I'm like, but it's all you. And
Mm.
so, really, the magic and the power is everyone has these personal stories of their own transformation, what rules they've left behind, what rules they want to keep moving forward. That can always be evolving. But if you're focused on being the most you can be and amplifying that magic, if you're obsessed with one thing and could do that forever, and that's in your energy, like do that. That is absolutely opposite. I am envious of people who can do one thing for forever. That's not how I'm made. So I need to design my business where I can be doing a lot of different things and support my energetic cycles and lean into that. So long story short, of the bulk of my work is about embodiment and alignment because that amplifies who you are, your magic, your rhythms. That puts your focus on not a destination or even a journey. It doesn't put emphasis on an outcome. The focus is not on I will be happy 6 years from now, or I'll have an amazing launch at this point in time or after I do these things. If the focus is always on am I being the most me that I can be, and am I leaning into my rhythms and intuition, that's when you create that flow and that magnetism. You lose that feeling of like pushing the boulder up the hill and that external resistance. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So tell me, so what is Be Good Guide? How did that name come about? Because I love it.
Um, so I was working in corporate America. I have done a bunch of other businesses on the side. I'm used to spinning up a website, an LLC, and things like that. But when it came to moving away from corporate America, I was working at Twitter, and when Elon took over, I got laid off with, half the company. And I was like, I'm never going back into corporate America. I'd already been planning on like what my exit was, but that runway of I'll figure out what I want to do. I'm really interested. I was doing astrology readings and tarot readings and stuff like that with friends. I'd have a deck of cards in my tarot cards in my purse and would occasionally like do readings for people out and about. And I was like, I felt like that pull. I was like, I don't know what this is going to look like, but I know it's something in this space. And then when Elon took over, that runway went to zero. And I literally the universe kicked me out of the nest in the most real way. And I was like, well, I'm doing it. 2 weeks later, I had an LLC, but I didn't know yet what exactly that was going to look like. And so when I was thinking about names, I wasn't thinking about a particular service. I wasn't even thinking about, I was like, I know I'm in astrology now. I'm dabbling in tarot, human design. I love working with small businesses. I love creating small businesses. I had like the loosest outline that could ever be had for a business idea. This is not what I would recommend to clients.
Wait,
Because
do you not yeah, tell me why not? Because I find that it actually got you started to starting something. Because people, I feel
it
like,
did.
wait for so long to start, and I'm like, "Just
Yeah,
do something now." So
it
tell me.
did.
Yeah.
It did, but I sort of did it in reverse. I did a lot of in 2024 was all about exploration and flow. I leaned in. I was like, I'm going to give myself basically a gap year and figure stuff out and dabble and experiment. Now, why I wouldn't recommend this to clients is because I could have done that while I was still in my corporate job. Had I had that was it was not that I couldn't have done that earlier. It was that I wasn't prioritizing that type of work. I wasn't prioritizing exploration, or I was doing self-discovery, but in not an aligned action kind of way. I was doing it in a logical, let me absorb what my birth chart means kind of way. So I came up with a name because I was focused on the feeling. I was like, I just want to be good. Like, I don't even need to be great. I don't need to be everywhere. I wanted to like almost push against that sort of the golden handcuffs of working for a tech company and being at in those hours working across 6 different time zones and like just being so burnt out. And then that was all about achieving more scale, more people, more, all of the messaging that was surrounding everything I was doing. Don't people just want to like be good? Like, don't they just want to like be like
Yeah.
And, like,
Yeah.
some days are great, some days are not so great, but, like, if we could have a baseline of just being good, the world would be in a much better place. Even talking to friends that people weren't aiming for these big dreams, which I always have, that I'm like, "I'm gonna make that happen, I'm gonna make that happen." But the majority of people are like, "I just wanna be good. I wanna be me. I wanna live in my life. I want things to be good." So the name came out of that for those 2 reasons. One, the emotional connection of what that feels like versus like something that's pushing, that feels pushing energy. And then also because I didn't know what I was going to be doing or selling. So it's like it needs to be broad enough and flexible, knowing that I'm going to collect more puzzle pieces along the way. So went into the year of exploration. I did level 1 sound healing. I did Reiki training. I read tarot cards at the one hotel for a Halloween party for 4 hours. That was energetically exhausting, but really magical. And so I started doing different things where I was like, everything that I touch, this isn't precious. This doesn't need to turn into an offer. Again, because I was so in that corporate mode, you experiment, you launch it, you test it, you keep iterating on it, you build, you build, you build. And I was like, I need to get back into my art school roots of just doing shit to do shit because I feel like doing it. And
Mm.
so that's why I like for clients, I'd say start doing, you can do a lot of that. I learned a lot of little techniques along the way of like, even if you're in another job and you're like, this is what, whether you have one business and you want to move to another one, or you are in corporate America and want to move to something else, there are so many ways to dip into that experimentation mode and figure this stuff out where when you're not in like a free fall of like, I don't know where my next paycheck is coming from. Cause for a lot
Mm.
of people that is I mean, I'm pretty secure money wise. Like when it comes to money, I don't have like a scarcity wound there, which a lot of people do. And it was very difficult to be like, I'm just watching my bank accounts go down as I'm like experimenting. So that's why I say keep the security for most clients. And I always look at everyone's chart with clients. So like I give customized advice to everybody, but for most people, keeping that safety, there needs to be a level of safety so that you can then find the lowest barrier to entry to dabble. So a lot of people I recommend like, okay, if you want to connect back with yourself, who you are, like pull a oracle card in the morning and like think about it for 2 minutes. Everyone has 2 minutes. Like, this is not a sit for 30 minutes and meditate every day, then go for a walk, then connect with your guides, then like that you need to take 3 hours or whatever it is a day to like shift into embodiment. It's in all the little actions.
So when you say an oracle card, like, okay, so it is in the little actions, and I feel like
Yeah.
you're so right because this is why I started Saucy Not Bossy because everyone wants this boss bitch culture, and it's like the hustle, the hustle, the hustle, and I'll say exactly what you said. You don't have to meditate for 30 minutes. You can just literally take 5 minutes to absolutely do fucking nothing. How about just do nothing for 5 minutes? Call a friend for 5 minutes and vent, or something
Yeah.
that's not just so big. And it's great to have a bigger picture like what you're
Yeah.
saying, but this is what I'm going to ask you. So when a client comes, how do you guys work together with the small steps? Like,
Yeah.
and explain to me what an oracle card is. I'm
Yeah.
learning all of this. This
I
is
have
really
so many
cool.
tools. So, an oracle card. So I actually have like so many around me because I mean, I've got astrology books and everything, but an oracle card is like a tarot card, but the tarot cards are a traditional, they're always 72 cards. There's major and minor arcana. It's similar to a deck of cards where you've got like, 1 through 10. That's the sort of like everyday suit. And then you've got Jack, Queen, King. You've got there's similar structures where there's cards that are more powerful than others. An oracle deck is created where it can be any number of cards. It doesn't have to follow a particular archetype or anything. But they're like people create them and they create the meaning. So I have actually an astrology deck that's sitting on my desk. And so that has all cards that are related to astrological planets, to terms, stuff like that. And if you're pulling a card, you're just sinking into your own energy and you can ask a question or you can say, give me the message that I need to be delivered. I know a lot of people can struggle with like, well, what question do I ask? You can just be like, what do I need to hear? Make it so stupid easy. And then you pull a card and it gives you the energy of like what and the meaning of what that card is. So I'll pull a card for us on from the astrology deck. What's a message for Saucy Not Bossy's audience that we need to hear today?
What's the message? Is yeah. Where do you like? How do you get unstuck? Is that too broad or
No, I think that like the message, so the this is so funny. So I pulled the Virgo card, which is gonna not show up on camera very easily. And so Virgo is all about integrity and service. It's this balance. It's exactly what you're talking about, what we were talking about, where like I don't want to hustle. That doesn't mean that I'm like not doing anything. I want to magnetize, not hustle. And in order to magnetize, you need to be energetically in a place that magnetizes. I want to call things in. I don't want to be out there chasing. Chasing is very masculine energy. And sometimes you need that. You need to balance both. Like chasing or masculine energy is great when you're closing a sale. It's great when I'm going to walk into a room full of people that I don't know and they're intimidating to me. Like I'm going to get this. That's masculine energy. Feminine energy is walking into that same room being like, I'm going to just exist and people will come to me and I'm going to be totally embodied in my own feminine energy and draw people in. So Virgo is ruled by Mercury, which is currently retrograde right now. But the message is that the little things, the little organizations, the little steps, the little actions, the way that you collect data on things around you, the way you collect data on yourself is very Virgo energy. You're cataloging how you feel about yourself and the things around you. But there's a component of Virgo that is very service oriented. And so balancing that of like not just I'm doing this thing, but connecting that back to the why. Why am I doing this thing? Who am I doing this for? What is this in service of? Am I, on this podcast to be like, it's all about me, shout my name? No, I'm on this podcast because we got connected. The universe put us together and I follow my intuition. I say yes. And I'm showing up in service of you and your audience in this conversation. I'm not, I even say anytime before I go on a podcast, I'm lighting a piece of sage and I'm saying I release any connection or control over the outcome. I I ground into my energy and I hope that something I says resonates. But whatever however people receive what I'm saying is none of my business. I'm showing up in service and what will happen will happen. And
so? Can
that's
you
that
let me ask
energy.
you a question? Sorry to interrupt you. Let me ask you a
Yeah.
question. Did you battle with that? I see a lot of people not even wanting to start anything or be part of anything because they're so self-critical. So
Yeah.
by you even saying that right then and there, it made me release and just go,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's such a smart thing to do."
Yeah. There's so much noise around what you should be doing, how you should be doing stuff. There's how many coaches came up during COVID being like, no, I have the right formula. No, I have the right method. No, if you do this, you're going to get $100,000 months and blah, 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 blah. That's overwhelming. What works for one person is likely not going to work for another. That's why I look at human design and birth charts before when anyone does a session with me. Going back to your question about how I work with people, the first session that before you can unlock any of my other services because they're so customized to who you are and what stage of business you're in, what stage of life you're in, all of that. The first session is a 90-minute session and I'm looking at your birth chart and your human design and I have like 4 questions in the intake, and from there, I can go into what, like, era you're in, what emotional era you're in. I always have people ask what their biggest challenge is, and we break it down into, like, what's the right step for you? And that is repeatable in every area of life. So instead of it's a lot of like mind frame stuff and it's a lot of centering. And yes, this was difficult. It took me years to figure this out. I would always feel scattered, overwhelmed if I was having too many inputs of what I should be doing and not enough inputs coming from within. What the most people when they feel confused, when they feel they don't know they feel either frozen, like they don't know what their next step is, or they could be frozen because they have like blank page syndrome, like they there's a blank page, they're terrified. They're like, I don't know what to write on this. Or they have too many ideas, and that creates that same freeze of like, what do I do? Let me look at what someone else did to get me out of this. But that only adds to the noise. When in reality, the more time you give yourself to sit with yourself, to ask yourself what you think about something, to feel into what your next step is, to feel into who you are and how you operate and really embrace that wholly. That doesn't mean only looking at the best parts of yourself. That can be looking at everything. Embodiment is embracing who you are in your light and your shadow. Not only accepting that, but embracing that and be like, this is who I am, this is how I operate. And I operate like this for a reason, because that is directly connected to the magic that I'm here to bring, which is directly connected to my feeling of fulfillment and purpose. So the more you are moving away from that, the more confused it gets, the more overwhelming it gets, the more scattered it gets. So when I say grounding, yes, you can stick your feet in the grass. There's lots of different ways to ground and there's lots of different ways to sit with yourself. That's why I like to use the like quiet contemplation instead of meditation. Meditation feels very hard to me, but contemplation feels easy. The more you know who you are, how you operate, the easier it's going to be. Some days I'm going to show up in a room in a crazy outfit that is like got tigers on it and checkers, and I'm going to be like walking in that room like, hell yeah. Today I'm like, ooh, I want to be like cozy and wear soft things and like have fuzzy slippers on. And however I feel, I'm going to lean into that. Whatever is coming up internally, I'm gonna try to prioritize that as much as I can and not let the outside noise penetrate or break that down.
Is it the judgment that we feel like we have to be a certain way? Is it because as a coach, I try to help become the voice in a lot of people's heads that
Yeah.
they hear from their parents or the bullshit of where we should be and where it's a different world. It's all these boomers are telling us what to do. And I'm like, you lived in a very different world.
I think there's a couple of things. I think culturally, first of all, huge.
Mm.
Like there is this American dream, which is a very loose term, and a lot of people have different ideas of that. But then also there's like, here's the steps. Like you said, the boomer steps. You go to school, you go to college, you get a degree, you work at that company until you maybe retire when you're old, and then you die, whatever it is. And then we start to add to that. Then it's like, no, okay, as women, we can have it all. Now you can work and have a child and you can do all these things. And so that in of itself is a lot of like pressure on what on the shoulds, on what we should, there's a lot of what you should be doing. I just got a ping to be like, nope, note this. Anytime your internal monologue says should, it's not you talking. That's not your
Mm.
intuition. Your intuition doesn't talk
Oh.
in should. That's external. That's because you saw someone else doing something. You're like, I should do that. I should launch something that way. I should make a post like that. I should. That's not your internal compass. That's external noise that you are then interpreting. Internal feels quieter. Internal, your intuition feels softer. We can dive into the clairs at some point, but like claircognizant is when you just know things, which I can tell that it's not, it's coming from like my guides or somewhere else because it's like words that I don't use. What does that even mean? Like, what did I just hear? And so there's like different levels. So I'd say there's external noise, then there's like your guides, angels, prayer, however you want to name it. There's like when you are connecting with greater source, there's that level of inner dialogue that you can be, that you can enter into in different ways. And then there's your internal compass, and everyone has their own way of receiving what that is. I like to use human design for this. I'm a splenic manifester, which means that I get an immediate yes or no gut reaction, and then it goes away. So if I don't listen to that first thing, I can talk myself into something, and then I will absolutely regret it later. That
Yeah.
also means that I don't necessarily, based on my human design, I don't necessarily know, I don't necessarily know a why. I just know this is something I need to do. And I look at it like I'm dropping a rock in a pond and it's going to ripple out and then we'll see what happens. So I think number one, it's that external voice, right? That can be very loud. And that's only getting louder. I mean, now how many people are asking ChatGPT what to do every 5 seconds? That's outsourcing your intuition, right? Like, and
Interesting.
trust me, I
Yeah.
use ChatGPT all the time, but I don't outsource my path to that. I use it for the how instead of the what and the why, right?
Mhm.
So I think there's that. And then I think ultimately it comes down to that the core need to belong, which is like from our Neanderthal days. If you weren't part of a pack, you died. Like that sense of belonging is still ingrained as culturally individualistic as we have become as a human species. We need community, and so those two are fighting right now. And so we need to be a part of a tribe, we need to be a part of a group, and when you step out of the shoulds, there's a fear that you'll be rejected from the community. And in some cases, like, that's a good thing because that's not necessarily your tribe. So I've had a lot of different sort of like friendship breakups, community, that as I'm getting to know myself more, I'm realizing where I feel safe, where I feel connected, where I feel like what rooms are a fuck yes versus an absolutely no. And that has only, I call that the environment. Under embodiment, I have energy, expression, and environment. Environment can support you, or it can make you feel not safe. It can make you shrink. It can again, it's that sense of safety and that sense of self. Those two things both need to be there in order for you to be like, okay, I'm going to show up as me. And it also takes bravery. Like, you have to take the step, which can be scary for a lot of people. I'm
Let me
uniquely
ask.
built in my heart to do brave things. So, and I'm saying it was not easy. So like that, take that all with like this sounds really great, but it's very difficult to implement. It's very small shifts, but it's very difficult to implement.
I Everything you said is so on point. Now let me ask you, because you and I are such big people, and I
Mhm.
know me personally, I've been in rooms and I trigger other people. What would you say? Because I feel like there's a lot of unhealed people, and I just come in who the fuck I am because I've had so much work on myself. But what would you say to somebody that's in the wrong room, they feel like they're too much, they're too big? Is that when you bring in the cards and that's when you work with somebody to like
Yeah.
hone it in and just say, "Hey, you're in the wrong room," because fuck that room. Like
Yeah.
I just see so many people, like you said, downplaying themselves, not being that loud voice, wearing the cheetah and the zebra and the leopard,
Yeah.
like the should.
Yeah.
I
There's
should.
a
You're so right.
shrinking to for safety, right? So first of all, I think of embodiment, it always starts with your own inherent energy. And I think of it as like almost like an outline of yourself in the middle of your body. You can pick a color, but say it's like a glowing, imagine like an aura drawing or something where you're an M&M and your outline of your body is the hard shell and your inside energy is the chocolatey center. Okay. And so what we want to do is make sure that are you a peanut butter M&M? Are you a peanut M&M? Like what's going on in there? This is funny because I've never used this metaphor before, but it came
I
through
love
from
it.
my guides. I was like, okay, we're gonna go with this. I like this. And so first you need to know what kind of M&M you are. Okay. Like you need to know, like, okay, am I being a lot as performance, or is that actually my natural state to be in? Because those two things could lead to very different rooms, right? Like you could maybe be in the right room, but you're showing up in not self. You're showing up in performance. You're showing up in all the masks that you've put on that we love. Thank you so much, former self, for creating those masks for protection. But thank you very much. We do not need you anymore. We want to put those aside and get to like that core energy of who you are, how you operate. And most people like have a really hard time if I ask them, like, what are your core values? What motivates you? What are your gifts? People are really good at going down a resume. They're really good at going down a like catalog history of where they've been and what they've done. But no one really asks us, certainly not in the education system, and mostly not in our career and not in networking. People are like, what do you do? Not like what lights you up right now? What drives you? What is a core value of yours that you are unwavering on that you've had to set boundaries around? Like these are the types of questions that they're like big questions, but there's a point in the chart that for every one of them. Like I could tell you all your childhood trauma by looking at a birth chart, but that's not really going to help you then integrate and make a change, right? I'm going to look at your chart and I'm going to say, these are the types of rooms where you connect the most. I know that I connect really great in big rooms for a short amount of time or one-on-one small groups for depth. Like those are my two, like this I would say is a one-on-one and there's depth, right? So I'm like, yes, this is a container that I like. If I have got to be in like summer camp vibes and like around not my tribe, not my people,
Right.
nightmare. My energy is like all over the place. I'm naked and afraid. Like it's not for me. So I think first step is like figuring out like what's the inside of that M&M, right? And then there's your expression of that. So if you're unclear on sort of like even what era of life you're in, like I'm sometimes in seasons where I'm a social butterfly, sometimes I'm in seasons where all I want to do is take bubble baths and naps, right? Like those are both parts of me, and I don't have to be one all the time. That's a big should. Consistency is a big should that is absolutely against everything in my chart. So for me, I'm ignoring anything that says consistency. The only type of consistency that I'm doing is consistently being me. Like that's all I'm worried about. And I'm not worried about it, but that's all I'm like intentionally paying attention to. If you know your core self and you sort of know that spectrum that you're on, then how do you translate that to your self expression? If me, it feels very natural to dopamine dress and like walk around to a photo shoot with a disco ball and like have a bubble gun. And like these are all things that don't feel not self, right? But I
Yeah.
also know, like you said, I think there's two things in what you said. One is that you can be a mirror. That is projection field. So I want to talk about that. When you are feeling like you're showing up authentically, that your muchness is not a mask, that you are authentically bigger than your body. Like your aura is magnetic, it's outward. There's that side of the spectrum. And then there's the being the not self and needing to find the right room. So I'm going to tackle the second one first. So being the not self or being in the wrong room, there's a couple different things to look at. It's like it could be format. It could be like, oh, I like love these people that I'm hanging out with, but actually like I can't hang out with a group of 10 people and like feel fulfilled. But if I'm hanging out with two of them at a time, I feel amazing. Like they are my people, but just not in that format. So I think format is one thing. And then also A lot of people are scared to be themselves, and but that's how you test if it's the right tribe. You've got to take a little bit of a leap to test. If you're showing up in masks all the time, how are you supposed to know how anyone's going to respond to who you actually are? Which is important, because if you're showing up as your not self, you're not attracting people who would like yourself, because they can't see it. They can't see who you are if you're not being who you are.
Okay, but what do you say to somebody? I guess this is where they work with you. Is
Yeah.
where what do you say to somebody that's so fragile, right? That they if they do go there and open themselves up and they get, I don't know, they get shit on pretty much
Yeah.
by those people. How do you get back to balance? Or
Yeah.
if you have that feeling at all about those people, should you just have the gift of fear and get the fuck out of the room? What do you think?
Yeah. I
It's
think that
like,
it's tricky, but I think that when people think about, like, oh, if I'm showing up as me, that means they're showing up with a completely different personality in a big way, and a group of people being like, do you like me? Here's who I am. That's not, it doesn't need to be that big. Again, it's in the little things. So with my clients, I don't open them up to criticism to show themselves. I help guide them to open themselves up to connection and celebration. So there's an
mm,
exercise in one of my programs that I do where I have like a scripted email or text that you send to 5 people in your life, and they should be in different areas. So maybe a family member, a coworker, a friend, people who know you in different rooms. And it is, lengthy with some stuff, but the gist of it is, like, I'm working on understanding how other people receive my magic and who I am, and what other people like, what I feel inside, how that's reflecting outwardly. Being someone that I'm close with, can you answer a few questions? And then the questions are like, when am I my most magnetic self? What does it feel like when I walk into a room? And I mean, the powerful statements that then these clients receive, and feeling seen and heard, you
I
start
like that.
building that safety with the people where there is safety already. You don't start with the room of
Mm.
people that you're like, I think that these are all secret haters. Like, you don't start there.
Totally.
You're
Yeah.
like, not suicide mission. Like, no. But you want to start with the
Oh,
people that are around you, that are close to you, and then um take that. And I always have people save that in a folder on their phone, so when they're feeling scattered or not self, to like remind themselves of who they are through other people's words, is really powerful. And also, those, again, it's just about having more of those conversations. I've done this exercise a couple times for myself. People are more than happy to gas someone they love up in a very real and authentic way, right? How often does that happen regularly? Not very often. It's always like, what are you working towards? Not what did you just accomplish? Like, what did you just do that you're proud of that we should celebrate? It's a lot of
mm,
people moving to the next things. You're building up this muscle. I look at it like, if you're going to the gym, you're not gonna, be a bodybuilder in a day. You've got to get those reps in. So just even getting comfortable asking the people closest to you if they see you, but in a way that feels accessible, like, that is terrifying. It's terrifying
I
for
love
every
that.
single client I've ever done it with. It was terrifying for me. And it was so, the threads of people saying, touching on the same thing but using different words, or using the same words, of people that don't even know each other, that is really powerful to help you connect with your own energy. And then you can start to be like, okay, actually, that's already coming through. Check. I don't need to even work on that part of my expression, but maybe I'm playing small with my clothes, or maybe I'm playing small with, like, not going to the thing that I want to go to because I don't think I belong in that room. Like, then you can start, once you bolster that internal energy, you can then be putting yourself in other environments, and expressing yourself more freely, because you feel more aligned and comfortable with who you are, and like, and that's your new truth, right?
I love that. You know what? Everything you just said, because I think when we had our conversation when we first started talking, there was that group of moms that was trying to bond with that group of moms, and they just
Mhm,
told me I was way too big for their little sorority. And, it was funny because the first few people I called were my best friends and was like, "Did you hear what just happened?" And they were like,
mhm.
"You're fucking amazing. You're strong.
Yeah,
And you are who you are." And I needed that because, my mom has Alzheimer's now and she can't
yeah,
be that for me. And for all of these
yeah.
people that, especially women that don't have that or never had that female support at all,
Mhm.
it's amazing that you do that with women
Yeah,
of getting your community that you already have, as opposed to I should be in that room. I should you say, "Hey, this is what you have in front of
yeah,
you. Utilize that to see you
yeah,
for who you are when you're feeling like you're down and you need." One of my friends was like, "Look in the fucking mirror, Shauna Ferrigno. Remember who the you are. Like, I'm busy. I'm not just friends with everybody." And I was like, "That's right." Oh,
yeah,
but I love
yeah.
that, Katie.
And you don't have to be for everyone, and you don't have to like, that's okay, and again, it's very difficult. I've been through so many friendship breakups and, like, moving out of groups and being like, and it's again, it sucks. It's really hard. I've had a lot of therapy about it, but there's nothing that will relieve that gnawing sense of not being seen and heard if you're always putting yourself in rooms where you're not being seen and heard. But first, before you cut and run, you have to provide people the opportunity to see and hear you as your authentic
Mm,
self. So I would say
mm.
that's your responsibility. You can't just show up with all these masks on and then one day be like, I'm done with this. You guys don't see me, when you haven't been like, hey, this is who I am. This is where I'm moving. This is where, like, this is the direction I'm going in. And it looks a lot different than maybe when you met me, but this is where I'm going. And there are going to be people that are the secret haters that are seeing what you're doing as a mirror to themselves of like what the work that they haven't done. There's going to be those people. There's going to be the people that, especially if you are a line one, no, a line 2 or 5 in human design, there's something called the projection field where people project on you that you can save them, even though you've not promised them anything. You're just existing. That happens to me a lot. People will put a lot of expectations on me. They see me as a savior. And I'm like, I'm
Mm.
happy to help. Like, I'm here to help people move towards what's good for them and away from what's not. Like, that's as simple as it is. And so I can help people, but you have to also be a willing participant in that process. I can't just be in your orbit and then suddenly you're amazing. Like, that's not like it's very
Yeah.
it's hard work. I like to think of that, especially in business and in the work that I do. I I think that there are clients, I think that there are friends, and I think that there are fans. And a fan can become a client if they're ready to do the work, but sometimes a fan is just a fan. They want to soak up the energy, but they're not ready to dive in. Again, that's okay. All of these different scenarios, that's fine. That's fine. That's no shade on my back. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to intentionally choose to spend time with the people where I feel the most seen and heard, where I feel the most, there's no resistance to my evolution or resistance to my growth or authentic, intentional support of the friend who's going to be like, hey, like, you just did a huge thing. Like, can we like celebrate that for a second? Oh my God, thank you for reminding me that I should celebrate. Like, that's the type of support that I like want to surround myself with. That doesn't mean that I can't be in all these other rooms, but you have to start, if you don't have that, it's going to be very difficult to go into other rooms of people that are going to receive your energy differently. I also think that just going in anywhere with the mindset is how someone else receives me is none of my business. I'm only
Ah.
responsible for how I show up. If I'm showing up with positive intentions in service, in my zone, in my magic, my side of the street is good. I hope that it helps other people. I hope that other people feel good after talking to me, not bad. But again, like, that's out of my control. So you can only really focus on what you're doing. I think that's another thing with the conditioning. It's a lot of external. Well, like, what about this outcome? What if you do this and then outcome A through Z? Like, that's the what if and the why game. That's like when a kid asks 9 million times, But why? But why? But why? That's a mind fuck. Don't do that. Like, don't get yourself in there. You just have to
Yes.
connect to like, what am I doing? Where am I at right now? And how am I showing up?
I love that. So when someone comes to you, so they sign up. So tell me how this works. So we need more Katie in all of our
Yeah.
lives. I love this.
Yeah. So if it's a new client, they book a 90-minute strategy session. I've got that intake form that asks like what very simple questions like where are you at in your business? Are you trying to grow? Are you like, do you have a business but you don't have systems? Or like there's like a drop down. It's like a multiple choice quiz. And then it's like, what's one thing that is top of mind that you want to work through? Now, sometimes people will come to me because they're like, I have so many ideas and I don't know which one to move forward with. Or they'll be like, I know that where I'm at is not where I like meant to be, but I don't know what that looks like. They're like at the beginning. And sometimes people will be like, I'm making this thing, but I have no idea how to do it. Is this the right time to launch? Am I building the right thing? Like so it can be a gamut of like where people are in their business journey and in their life journey and in their healing journey and all of that. I look at their chart, I look at their human design, I set up a client portal that they will have access to forever. So any additional sessions that we have, everything goes in there. Every note that I have about what era they're in, I try to make sure that we talk live. I drop the recording and the transcript in there, but I'm also taking notes during the session and dropping any pre-notes and post notes. Now, what happens in that 90 minutes is very different depending on what they're working on and what the client is. If it's someone doing more tactical stuff, I'm building out this library of activations that I do. So we could be doing a metamorphosis map of like, what transformation does your client move from? What's your caterpillar? What's your butterfly? And how do they move through those stages? We could do a tactical session where we're mapping that out. And I'm looking at the birth chart to look at ideal clients. I'm looking at what are the containers that are appropriate? What path are you on of transformation? So we can connect that. Like usually people, especially who are coaches, who are educators, are teaching something that they were just doing. They're teaching about their previous phase. So that's an entry
Mm.
point to a metamorphosis map. So we could do stuff like that. Sometimes I do just a straight vocational reading where we really dive into like, what are your skill sets? What era are you in? Are you in a progressed moon that is like causing you to self-reflect and blow up your life? Like, are you in a Saturn return? There's some pretty big signatures that can show massive change. A lot of times I'll even be like, you're feeling the impending change, but your job is to experiment for the next 6 months. And then at 6 months, that's when your new chapter begins. So I can do some timing stuff with that. So I like to anchor into timing and like practical takeaways. Like, here's how to implement or integrate that. So even if I'm doing more astrology based readings, there's always a tangible, tactical, practical takeaway, something. And sometimes I'm channeling. A lot of times I'm channeling, like either a message will come through even as we've been talking. Like I said, I've never used that M&M metaphor before to describe that embodiment. The visual I have in my mind, but I describe it in different ways. That dropped through, so I'll channel. Sometimes I'll do dedicated channeling where I'll be like, let's pull some cards, and then like I'll channel a message that comes up to help them. And then, but at the end of the 90 minutes, whatever question they had, they've got more of a toolkit and possibly it's more tactical, some work done towards that, where then they can go and integrate and implement. And then from there, I also double that as sort of a diagnostic session, because from there I can feel into, okay, you know what? You're not ready to like build a whole business ecosystem right now. Like, we need to do more of the like defining your values, what motivates you, your skill set, your talents. Like, we need to do that. And so I route people to different types of services and then different structures. So I have 8-week programs. I have 2 half-day petite retreats, I call them. I've got VIP days. But again, if I was to list out all the types of things that I do and all the different structures, my menu would be like a Denny's menu. Like, or no, Cheesecake Factory
Right?
menu. And also in this work, most people don't know what their next step is. They're like, this is where I'm at. Like they're looking for me to be like, this is where you're at. This is your next focus. And so then we go from there. And so I have a client right now that I'm doing an 8-week like tech audit and customer journey session with. And so we're diving into every piece of her business, all of her offers, and walking through how her clients interact with her business and how that's supported in her tech and systems and what tech and systems she needs to build in order to make that smooth and take some admin off of her. And then I'll like build that because also I'm an ex tech girly. So I do lots of like automations. I'm in space talking to, spiritual guides. And then I'm like making a zap to automate email lists going places. Like it's, again, would not be able to describe it.
What do you find the common theme is for most people that come to you?
Think the most common thing I hear, I'm going to answer this in 2 ways. The most common thing I hear is like, that was so validating.
Mhm.
And not in a like, you gave me my flowers, so I feel good now. But the things that we will talk about specifically when I'm pulling up like what era they're in, what's coming through in their chart, we will talk about things that they have not told anyone about that I am then verbalizing. I've had so many people, I think even when we were talking, you were like, that's written on a sticky on my mirror. That happens all the time. Like
Mm.
that, like there are words or phrases that I will say that are like it's not my words. It's like what you would say to yourself. And so validating like what is true to them and their energy is very powerful, especially it can be very lonely building a business, especially if you're surrounded by a bunch of people who don't get it, right? I understand you don't have to like over explain your business model because I'm sure even if it was a topic that I knew nothing about, I can generally connect it up, be like, oh, I know exactly what phase you're in. I know where you are. I know what you're feeling. I know where you're stuck. So there's number one, that validating that like, okay, I actually can talk to someone about this that I have never spoken out loud. Like that's cool. And then the second thing is that, again, that integration. Like there's not a single client in any session of any length that is not leaving with a next step and how to do it and the tools to do it and resources and it broken down in a way where it's not a mountain anymore. It's like, no, 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 don't worry about this. Just focus on this one thing. And then I use people's charts to like figure out the delivery. Some people really like a challenge or they like homework or they need support. They need to co-work it out. We can do that. Whatever someone needs at that point is what we're working on together.
I love it, Katie. I love it. Since you were a child, did you just have like a third eye? Do you, I feel like you're so ahead of, just seeing certain things, or was it just creating who you are over time?
Yeah. I mean, my Saturn return uh definitely punched me in the gut. I was like, whose life am I living? Like and so many of us have that moment. And I was like, what am I what is this? Like on paper, yes, like woo, but I'm like, this is not it. And so when I was 31, it started with listening to different podcasts. I was listening to the Mark Groves podcast. That was like one of the Create the Love podcast
Mhm.
was one of the early ones. I had a friend who had introduced me to tarot, but I'd never really studied it. We just would, she would do readings for me when we would hang out. So I started like, let me get a tarot book. I started like that self-discovery period. And then I was like, I, it's my one line in human design. I need to like research, research, research. Well, yourself is a deep well of research. And
Yeah.
so I've been researching myself in an intentional way for the last 7 years. When I'm investing in stuff, when I'm investing in like a course, I'm not investing in a course to learn the skill. I'm investing in a course to discover something new about me. Or I'll do experiments for myself. Like the last two Libra seasons, I didn't do it this year, but the 2 years prior, I did 60 days of play. And I wrote sticky notes of 60 different things that I was going to do to bring more play into my life. I'm constantly doing like exercises like that, little rituals, trying things out. I get my aura photo taken every year. I surround myself with people who are doing these different modalities. I'm like, let me try that out. You want to trade for like, show me how to like regulate my nervous system with breath work, and I'll like tell you how to launch that funnel. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
it's a constant, um, it's a work in progress. And I think the biggest thing is being intentional about it. I think that anyone can do it. I've really accelerated, and through that have unlocked things. Like, I didn't know that I was claircognizant. I'm not a child who like grew up seeing dead people. That's not, I didn't grow up in a super religious household, but I didn't grow up in a hippie household either. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't like touch a tarot deck until I was in college. Like,
Yeah.
um, so a lot of this stuff was like, again, following like, what am I drawn to? What am I like, where do I feel like going next? And then I try to do as much of that, as possible. So, and that's when I started going into like the beginning of last year, I did psychic development, which helped me tap in more to tools of how to connect with my guides and connect with myself, more. So there's different like ways to enter into it. But I think at the core of it, my focus for the past 7 years, like while I've been building businesses and while I've been doing, other stuff, I'm hang out with friends. I was at a concert last night. I had an espresso martini. Like, again, I'm not like a witch in the woods, like hobbling out and being like, here's my potion. Um, I'm very much like bridging you like in multiple different worlds, but my focus and my intention for the past 7 years has been like, I want to be the most me that I can be. And
Mm.
then that has
Yep.
infused in everything else.
And then that allows when people come to you for them to be themselves because you're not trying to be a fucking guru or put
Yeah.
yourself on them. That's what I
Yeah.
find a lot with people. Yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
what
I'm
are
not a
you trying to
shady
help me?
cult leader. I'm not trying to get anyone to drink my Kool-Aid.
Oh, but I think I don't know. I don't want to think too much for you, but you're pretty funny as well. I could see you on stage. I bet you're
No, I
great on
like to be
stage,
on
but
stages, just not,
I know, but you could be a
not like
comedian on
holding,
stage. You're
yeah, just not holding
hysterical.
people hostage.
Oh my God, Katie, I could keep you forever, but I am so excited to explore more about what you do. Everybody needs to go to Be Good Guide. I love your website, by the way. I love
Thank
your
you.
Instagram. And I'll put all of those details on there. And you're not a witch in the woods. And I just love everything you just said, especially women. I feel like we need more of you in our lives because I just feel like women can just be so mean to one another. It just feels so good to be able to talk to you. And yeah,
Mhm.
and when you do your seminars, I gotta come out to Tennessee. I gotta come see you live in action. I bet that's
It's gonna
just
be so
incredible.
good.
Just
Soulward Summit, March 22nd and 23rd of 2026 is our
right.
next annual summit. And it is very much everything I just talked about. It is the intersection of intuition and business. We've got psychic mediums there. We've got marketing founders there. It's really just a really amazing community of women doing business differently.
And we can go to begoodguide.com and check that out, right? For the
Yeah,
summit.
I actually probably should put that on. It's linked on my Instagram, but I'll put it on my website too.
Yeah.
We have a
Okay.
separate
Cool.
Soulward
I'll keep
Summit
you
website for
info.
that. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, Katie, you are the best. And I thank you so much for this conversation. And you were so
Thank you.
wonderful. And yeah, I can't wait. And then, I'll just keep you in your voice in my head. And yeah, then I'm coming for you. You're the best.
Yeah, let me know. Let me know if you how many rooms you need me to audit. Rooms that you're in.
Coming for you. I'm telling you. I'll drink your Kool-Aid any day. You're the best. All right, honey. Thank you so much. This is
Thank
awesome.
you so much.
Bye, honey.